Welcome to Dentalflix Uncut. I am your host, Allison Lacoursiere, the Director of Education and the co-founder of Dentalflix, and I am here with one of our incredible creators, Howard Polansky. Welcome to Dentalflix Uncut.
Thank you, Allison. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to dive into this today. I have personally gained a lot of insight from your lectures inside of Dentalflix, and I'm really excited to introduce our audience to you and help them get to know you more. So I'm going to start off with our first question. How did you get into the work that you're doing today?
Sometimes life leaves you little clues, and other times life hits you with a two by four. My two by four moment was Sunday morning, Memorial Day weekend, 2018. Jaden, my older son, is 12 years old. I'm sitting next to his bed. He realizes I'm there and he says, "Dad." His voice is barely above a whisper. Say, "Yeah, buddy." I lean over his bed. I put my ear over his mouth to make sure I can hear him. And he says three words I'll never forget. Am I dying? 12 days earlier, Jaden came home with a stomach ache. 3 days after the stomach ache, we were in the children's hospital in the ICU because he had appendicitis that turned septic. 29 days in the hospital, 19 of them in the ICU, 8 straight days of sedation because he went to the operating room 5 times. After they take the tube out of his throat, they give him methadone and morphine to bring him down from the drugs that he was on. My 12-year-old son looks like a heroin addict coming down from a high. And the very first question he will only ask me are those three little words. Am I dying? My first breath was, did I hear him correctly? My second breath was, do not lose it right now. And I look him square in the eyes. I say, no, you're not dying. You've had prayers from thousands of people all around the world, and you're going to be just fine. He looks at me. He knows I'm telling him the truth. He closes his eyes to get more rest. I walk outside the room, and then I broke. I was already miserable. I was burnt out from dentistry, and I was taking it out on everyone around me. But when I broke, only one thought seared into my mind. If life is this fragile and I'm unhappy with the path that I'm on, burn the ships. It's over. And that's what I did. I sold my practice in September of 2018, walked away from the dental chair.
I have full body goosebumps right now. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. And so what happened next?
Yeah. So in the transition, I'm having lunch with another dentist who asked me an obvious question. How are you walking away? And actually, before I continue on, because I know this is going to be the question that everyone's asking, is your son okay? Okay, the answer is yes. Everything worked out just fine. 18 inches less of intestines, some really cool scars, but knock on wood, he's healthy. Because if not, everyone's going to want to kill me in terms of like, where's your son now?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but in that transition of getting out of dentistry, I'm having lunch with another dentist, and he asked me this question: "How are you walking away?" And I made one dumb comment to him, which changed everything in my life. I kind of figured out how to make money move, and he gave me that Scooby Doo look. And I tried to explain things that day, and I just didn't do a good job. But a few weeks later, I get the next statement in the mail for my house payment. Allison, my house payment was $24.19. And I sent it to this guy as a joke, just to try and say, like, look, this can happen. And he's just like, I see it. I don't understand how you can have a $24 house payment. I'm buying a condo next month. Will you be my coach? Okay. He paid off the condo in 8 months instead of 30 years. And so he tells his business partner, I tell a friend of mine what happened. They become the next two people I help. And all of a sudden, now my heart is telling me this is what you're supposed to be doing in this world. You're not here to be a dentist. You're not here to do another crown. You're not here to do another root canal. You are here to teach people what I now call these new rules of finance and the system around it so that they can get to their freedom sooner, however that person defines freedom. And so this is what I do is I am looking at your expenses, specifically those that are associated with debt, and saying, is there a way for us to rearrange those expenses so that you live the same lifestyle, you run the same business, but now you have more money at the end of each month?
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is so huge. And I know when I asked you ahead of our call, what is the number one problem with dentistry right now? And I've heard this hundreds of times, like prior to you saying this, with dentists from all over North America, it's debt.
It is. It's insane to me that places like NYU and University of Southern California that they are telling people going into dental school right now, just for the 4 years of dental school, expect it's going to be you're going to walk out with nearly $800,000 of debt. I mean, you might as well just dig the grave now because it will feel like this insurmountable amount that you can just never get out of. There is a way, but it's you are so far, you are putting yourself so far behind that personally, I don't even know if dentistry is worth it. That could be a totally different discussion. It would probably be a 3-hour podcast at that point, but we'll stick with this for today.
100%. And I think you being in our industry to help people understand like what they can do to get out of debt faster, to be able to make more money in their practice, to really understand their money, because dentists aren't going to business school. Dentists don't understand some of these things. They're focusing on a lot of other things. They're coming out unsure of how to move forward. And so having somebody like you to be able to support them is absolutely priceless. So if you could give me, while I have you on this podcast, one secret sauce to growing our dental practice with your mindset, with your experience, and with your knowledge.
The secret sauce of what I'm doing and the number one tool that I am utilizing is called the line of credit. Okay. And think super simple. A credit card is a line of credit. It's an open-ended tool that money is flowing through. But the banking system, the financial system has set up that you have, and let's just keep this simple, like just a mortgage. It's a one-way street. And when you make that payment is gone. Okay. And if you decide to make extra principal payments on that mortgage, and then you get hit by a bus the next day, you can't get the money back out. And so if you think of your house right now as a titanium safe that's a one-way street, you put the money in, you can't get it out. I'm blowing up the safe, or I'm now giving you the key so that you can open the safe. And when you can do that, you can put all of your money in, knowing that the next day you can literally get all the money back out. And just that one simple switch is the reason why I can create the magic that I do. Because speaking specifically for dentists, since that's more than half of my clients, the average dentist improves their cash flow over $65,000 a year just by starting to understand the basic principles of this. I've had some as high as 200,000 plus a year. That's looking at their business, because if they're the sole proprietor, that business is going to flow through to the personal side. So I have to look at everything and say, how do we make things more efficient? And by utilizing a line of credit and understanding the difference between amortized fixed debt payments and utilizing simple interest, even though the interest rate may be higher, you can potentially pay far less overall and save decades of time in the process.
Oof, oof, you're not just saving money, you're saving time. And your story at the beginning, I think, has given us such an insight into the true fragility of life and the fact that we don't have to spend all this time doing something because we just don't know a different way is so important. What is one thing that you wish every single dental professional knew?
When you're sitting with your accountant and they tell you, congratulations, you made a profit call it $500,000. I don't care what the number is, but let's just use $500,000. You made a profit of $500,000 this year. And then you look down at your bank account balance and you look back at them and say, but where's the money? I have been in a room of 40 plus dentists, and I have seen silent head nods of 40 dentists saying, how does this guy know every single year what the conversation is? And if they took 15 seconds to explain one concept, when you have that debt payment, the only thing that shows up on the profit and loss statement is just the interest part of the payment, not the principal part, not the actual paying the balance of the debt down. That's on a different statement called the cash flow statement. And if they took 15 seconds just to explain that, or told you the one way or the 5 pieces of information you need to convert that profit and loss into a cash flow statement so you can see, oh, this is why I have no money, that would make all the difference in the world. And I did this for someone who has been a dentist for 28 years. And she just had that deer in the headlights look of, I asked this question 25 years ago, and not a single CPA could answer this for me for the last 25 years. And you just answered this in 15 seconds. That's it. That's it. If that's the one piece I want people to come out is, how do you take what your accountant is saying? Because what is really happening is it's two different languages. They're both using the universal language of money, but they're speaking the IRS and the tax code. And I am talking in terms of real life, because you can't pay people out of seashells and out of love. You got to pay them with the cash that flows through the business. So where the hell did it go? Traditionally, it went to the debt payments for you to be able to start the business. And once you can get those payments out of the way, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got cash. Now life's pretty good. Let's just do that a lot faster. That's all I'm asking people to do.
Oh my gosh, you must be your client's best friend. I can see that you get the best Christmas presents. You get the best Christmas cards.
I feel pretty blessed in terms of that I was able to stumble into this and realize I am now doing my dharma, Allison. I wasn't aligned before, but now this, even though it might come easy to me, it's now in terms of I'm still being a teacher. I'm still being a doctor. I mean, the Latin word for doctor is docere, which means to teach. I'm teaching just a new language for people to understand there's just a different way. And especially for dentists, because look, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, they are fantastic at what they do. I do not poo poo what they do, but they're also speaking to the 90%. And dentists are not the 90%. They're the top 10, the top 5, potentially even the top 1%. The rules are different. If only you knew that there were different rules. And that's what I'm trying to expose people to.
I don't know if I've been on a podcast where I've been just full body goosebumps the entire time. You were just dropping gold on this podcast. Okay, let's wrap up with this because I'm so excited to know this based on everything you've given us so far. Give us your best advice that you've ever received or given.
Well, I mean, I shared the first one from my subconscious. I'll give you the other one because even though the story with my son was the final blow in terms of like I am done with dentistry, it actually happened a few months before where I was just all sorts of distraught. As I said, I was just miserable in terms of dentistry. It was for various number of factors. And I am sitting in a super busy restaurant, like insanely busy downtown Austin. You couldn't hear yourself think. I'm sitting next to my partner. I couldn't even hear her and have a conversation. She knew how heavy dentistry was for me. And all of a sudden, I say one thing that just blurts out of blurts out of my mouth, maybe the person that needs to be fired is me. Allison, the whole room went silent. I heard nothing. And my subconscious just came back and just said yes. And the next question I had in my head was, if I doubled my practice tomorrow, would that change anything? And it said no. And I knew right then and there, that's when I needed to be done with dentistry. But then a few months later, when everything happened with Jaden, that sealed the deal. That was the end of that chapter of my life. And so I'll kind of sum it up with this. When you have that suspicion that you are just not on your path anymore, forget about the identity of being a doctor. I don't know if you're allowed to curse on this podcast or not, but it's all bullshit. Okay, it's all bullshit. No one cares. I told patients the only difference between you and me is I was stupid enough to keep going to school. That was it. Get your ego out of it. And if you really listen to your heart, get out of your head and listen to your heart to say, it's like, am I really doing what my purpose is in this world? And it comes back as no, start transitioning.
Thank you, Howard. I'm so grateful for the creators and the community we have in Dentalflix to be able to talk about the real shit of life and of business and of dentistry, because there have been far too many people for far too long that have felt isolated and alone and lost and uncertain. And people like you are the people that have paved the trail, have taken the risk on yourself first, and have helped so many people do it after you. And so I'm just so grateful for you. I'm grateful that we get to hear your stories and your journey and learn from you inside of Dentalflix. And so if anybody is inspired by this, I personally am going to be like emailing you afterwards to help me personally with my finances. If anybody's inspired to connect with you and work further with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so one, look on Dentalflix. It's basically a 1-hour class in terms of the ins and outs of how to utilize lines of credit efficiently. But if you want to reach out to me directly, website is financiallyled.com. So it's just LED, which is a short acronym for lift the burden from fixed debt payments, expand your cash reserves, deploy the extra dollars into other assets. That's where that all came from. You want to text me or just call me, 512-608-1020.
We will put that into the show notes as well. Howard, thank you. I'm so inspired by you. You are going to help so many people from this podcast, from everything that you're doing. And thank you so much for being a creator on Dentalflix.
Thank you, Allison. It was an honor to be here.
You've just unlocked valuable insights with Dentalflix Uncut. But there's more. Dentalflix is not just a podcast. It's a thriving community, a hub of knowledge, and the #1 online streaming CE platform in dentistry. With just a few clicks, you can start exploring a wealth of resources, including in-depth training on leadership, case acceptance, scheduling, hiring, weekly marketing calls, insightful gap assessments, and scorecards, all designed to help you master what you discovered today and propel you further on your path to dental excellence. Head to dentalflix.com to get started for free and embark on your journey towards mastery. Thanks for tuning in to Dentalflix Uncut. See you next time.